The thing about manufacturing, oh, just by the way, can you see here? This is, I wrote on this page and then it got through. I didn't write on this page, but can you see that you still see a part of it?
Yeah.
And that's what happens if you write in pencil and you erase. Part of it is still visible. Remember grade 12, they scan your papers, we mark on the computer. So it looks like this kid just wrote with a very light pen. Ne? But actually he didn't write. So that's why I'm asking, if in an exam you do write with a pencil, you use the pencil as a pen. You don't erase the pencil. You do not rewrite it in pen over the pencil. You write in pencil, you draw a line through a mistake, you write on top of the pencil. You don't erase. Okay. Okay. Enough of that. And I recorded it so that you can always hear it again, if you can find the video. Okay, so manufacturing. The difference between what we've done up until now, till what we're going to do now, is our businesses was businesses that bought finished goods. The stuff, the products that we bought was already made, so we knew I bought this for 10 Rand, so this is the cost price, 10 Rand. With manufacturing it's different, because with manufacturing I make the product that I'm going to sell. Okay, so I still need to see what was the cost of making the product before I sell it. You get what I'm saying? So the first thing I need to explain to you is we have 3 stock accounts. So this is just the stock going into different stages, right? So the first stock I have is the raw material stock, or we will talk about the direct material stock. So obviously that would be, if I am making apple juice, it would be the apples and the sugar and the water I use, the packaging of it. That's all raw material. In other words, I still need to make it into a product. Okay. The second one I call work in progress or work in process. It depends what textbook you use, but yeah. This is while they are busy making the product. Right. So in other words, they took the apples to the factory floor with the machines. Now the machine is peeling the apple and taking out the trunks and crushing it. This is work in process. And then of course the third is finished goods, which makes sense. Now it's ready to sell. And all of them are stock accounts, so they are all assets. So if I look at them, my raw material, we're not going to do T accounts, we're going to do statements. But I just want to explain with a T account how it works. So the raw material works like this. I have a balance that I start with and a balance that I end with, which makes sense because remember, your financial year ends today. Tomorrow the new financial year starts. So it might be that I didn't use all the raw material, so there's still left from last year, which by the way is just yesterday. Right. So now I buy raw material. I can buy it cash, I can buy it on credit. So I'm just going to say CJ because I can also return the stuff that I bought. Okay. And now the most important thing is the material that I issue. So let me explain the word issue to you. In our school we get pens. The teachers get certain stationery. So let's say we need red pens because it's now test cycle. I need to fill in a form that requests red pens. I hand it in at the office. Okay, so obviously I am the HOD. So if Ms. Makololo wants red pens, she fills in a form. I need to authorize it. Then it goes to Ms. Hubert in the admin office. She goes once a week to her storage room where she takes out the red pens, and that action where she gives it to me then is called she issues it to me. So now you can think raw material will have its own storeroom, ne? And there will be a storage manager, someone that's in charge of that stock. And you can't just go in and say, oh, I need more apples, and go take apples. You need to go through the process, because that person in charge of the raw material needs to be able to have control over what comes in and what goes out. You see? Okay. So now those raw material is going to go to where we're going to produce it. You see, it goes to work in process, and that we issue it. Okay. So in other words, the raw material that we use in the process is called the raw material cost. Okay. So if they give you information and they say raw material issued, then you know that's the raw material that we used in the process. Okay. If I look at work in process, now I am on the floor. If I say on the floor, I mean I'm literally in the space where they are producing. Right. So if we are doing Simba chippies, the potatoes are now going into process. It's being washed, it's being peeled, it's being cut, it's being boiled in oil, it's being flavored. That's work in process. You guys get it? So with this I can also have a balance the beginning and end of the year, which also makes sense, because the workers working on the line will not necessarily know that, oh, today is the end of the financial year, so we need to finish what we start. Ne? For them it's just another day. So some of the potatoes are still in process, will continue. Tomorrow doesn't need to be done. Okay. So what do I need to produce? I need material. What material? The raw material, or we call it the direct material. I need direct labor. So direct labor is specifically the factory workers. When they talk factory workers, they talk the people that's on the line. So they are busy making the product. Okay. That's direct labor. They touch and make the product. And then we have our expenses, which I call factory overheads. Okay. And now, can you see this is all the cost of making the product? And once this product is done, I take it to finished goods. You see. And finished goods is now ready to be sold. So obviously I can also have a balance the beginning and the end of the year. What balance would that be? What do I want to do with finished goods? I want to sell it. And so if I have a balance for finished goods, what does it mean? That's the finished goods that didn't sell so far. Okay. So now I finished the stuff, so I bring the new stuff. So this is the stuff that what didn't sell. This is the new produce. So now so can you now see that gives me what is available to sell? Can you see that? You guys with me? So if I have 2 dresses that didn't sell, I made 10 new ones. It means I've got 12 available to sell. Now if I tell you, so let me write it. Let's say I had 2, I made 10. If I tell you I have 3 left the end of the year, the difference there is 9. What is that 9? It's what I sold. Nay, does that make sense? And can you see, all of this is stock. And we know stock is always at cost. Nay? So can you see this would be my cost of sales. So can you see now I have a very long process to get to cost of sales. You guys with me? So what I also want you to see is they're going to talk about direct and indirect. So direct and indirect, if I talk material, the direct would be the raw material. You get that? The indirect material would be my consumable stores. Meaning, I mean, you can just think how the floors look in a chips factory. All that oil, and if they don't clean it, can you think how people are going to slip and fall and break their necks? So there are cleaners cleaning the floors with Handy Andy. But hopefully that Handy Andy does not become part of the product. You guys see? So yes, we use it in the factory, but it doesn't become the product. So this would be like your fuel. It would be if they have to lubricate oil for the machinery. If all of that is indirect, it's in the factory, but it doesn't become the product. The same goes with labor. So labor, the direct is the factory workers, which can be confusing because the indirect is also people working inside the factory. Okay, so let's go again. So when they talk factory workers, they're not talking workers working inside the factory. They specifically talk about the people busy making the product. So what's interesting, one paper they actually talked about the machinists. And I thought that's the mechanics, but it's not. The machinists, it's the people operating the machines. Okay, I call them the line workers. If I say line workers, do you understand what I'm saying? Because your production process, mass production, has got a line. So the potatoes move through the water. There's people taking out the rotten potatoes. It goes into the peeler machine. The people there sort the big and the small potatoes. Then it goes into, so all along the line of production, there's people touching the product. Right. Indirect would be my cleaner and my factory foreman. So factory foreman is basically the manager, the factory manager. He needs to see that people come in on time, that they don't slack, that, you know, he's in charge. He walks around, he checks that all the work is done. You guys got me? Okay. So now, that's the first thing. Second thing, if I look at my expenses, the expenses is going to be divided also into 3 departments. And the 3 departments is the factory, the admin, and the sales and distribution. Now, why is that? So, the factory is what we call factory overheads. Admin is your office, when they talk office, and sales and distribution is everything to do with getting the product to where it's sold. Okay. Now, why don't I just put everything in the factory? Because remember now, factory overheads form part of the cost of making the finished goods. So it has an influence on the cost of sales. Now, if I'm a factory or a manufacturer, I have competition. So your goal is always to keep the price as low as possible and the quality as high as possible. You don't want to compromise on either one, right? So you don't want to put expenses into the cost of making the product, that's going to lift the cost. That's not actually part of making the product. So that's why I'm splitting it. So let's for instance look at salaries. Can you see the salary of the secretary would be in admin? The salary of the drivers, the truck drivers would be in sales and distribution. The salary of the factory foreman would be in the factory. Do you see that? Okay, so how your T's look like, it would be looking like something like this. So let's say I have rent expense. You agree with me if I say my balance for rent expense is, I'm just going to say 10 Rand, is 10 Rand. It means it's for the whole building. But that building is used for 3 departments. So I'm going to split it. So I'm going to say, okay, the factory uses 7. The admin uses 1. Sales and distribution uses 2 Rand. Can you see? So now in my factory overheads, I'm going to have a rent expense. Admin, I'll have a rent expense. And sales and distribution, I'll have a rent expense. Can you see? I distribute it between the 3 expenses. Get it? Let's say I have, I don't have space, that's what I have. Let's say I have a salary and wages. So wages is when I pay per hour. Eh? So now I say, okay, my balance was 10 Rand. So I say, okay, direct was, I take to work in process, that was 7 Rand. Okay? Indirect is factory overheads, which was 1 Rand. Admin, which is the secretary, 1 Rand. Sales and distribution, which is the truck driver, 1 Rand. Can you see it adds up to 10? So now I will have in my work in process, in my factory overheads, and indirect material. Can you see that? Does it make sense? You guys mustn't sleep. This is important stuff. Okay, so I will have here the salary for the cleaner, 1 Rand. Here I will have the salary for the secretary, 1 Rand. Here I will have the salary for whoever, 1 Rand. You see, I split the expenses. Let me just quickly tell you, things that go into sales and distribution and can't go anywhere else is things like packing material, advertising, and this is an important one, bad debt. Okay. Bad debt goes to sales and distribution. In the admin office, things that's going there, anything to do with the secretary, the bookkeeper, the receptionist, anything to do with admin. Okay, so stationery will go to admin. Stationery. Factory overheads will always have indirect material, indirect labor, and then everything else, which the part is split to them. Right. Can you see if I do depreciation? This will be depreciation on the machinery. Admin would be depreciation on the computers. Sales and distribution would be depreciation on the vehicles. Can you see? Okay. I quickly just want to talk to you also about sales reps. Do you know what's a sales rep? The word rep stands for representative. Okay. And one of the most lucrative jobs that you can do is being a medical rep. So let's say you work for Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer. They're most those big farm companies. So what happens is you're the in-between person between the factory and the people buying. So I need to be a rep for Panados, for instance. So now I need to go see every shop, every doctor that sells Panados. So everybody's got their area now. Let's say I've got the CBD. So I'm servicing all the Clixes, all the Checkers that's got a little pharmacy, all the Dis-Chems, all the medical doctors. I have to go present the medicine to them, show them, and they order through me. And I get a sales commission on everything I sell. Why? do I say medicine? Because if people have certain medicine that they drink chronically, then you are sure of that commission forever. You get what I'm saying? And not just that, this big farm companies, they look after their workers very well. So you get a cell phone, a phone, what do they call it? And a car allowance and a phone allowance. You go for training. What I never knew, so when my dad has got a pacemaker, so he had to go for a brain scan. So MRI is like was a big magnet. So he can't go in with his pacemaker. The rep for pacemakers came in to switch it off and switch it on, meaning that lady had training in that. So if you're interested in medicine but you can't go study medicine, consider going into doing some or other commercial degree and then going into repping. Try and get into medicine. Can you imagine if you're a rep for USN? Okay? All that protein thingies. Yes, baby.
What commerce degree would you like to get?
No, they'll say any commerce. So you do your BCom and you go see which subjects do you like best and you major in that. Marketing would be good, but human resources would also be good. Public relations would be good. I don't even think you need a BCom degree. You can have any degree. I just think a BCom degree is a good foundation because of commerce. Yeah. Cell phone companies. If you work for cell phone manufacturers, you work for Apple. Yeah. So, any questions?
No.